Love it. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Brews and Belters podcast, where we talk all things soccer while sipping on a few of our local brews. As always, I'm Keegan Gowitz. Tonight, I am sipping on a home lager from Good City Brewing here in Milwaukee. As always, I'm joined by
Jack Butler, and today I am drinking another of my staple IPAs, which is the Rift IPA from Central Waters out of Amherst, Wisconsin.
Excellent.
Sounds good. I'm Toby Henefeld. I am drinking a Revolution Brewing out of Chicago, a little crazy Belgian style pale ale. So yeah, repping Chicago. Better moral compass with this brewery. So liking it.
Yeah. So we go ahead, Jack.
I was gonna say I've been drinking a few of them today because we got about 16, 18 inches of snow in my neck of the woods. My wife got the car stuck in the alley, so I had to get out into the rescue. But the only way to shovel snow is while drinking beverages. So it's gonna be a loose conversation for me tonight, I think.
Excellent. I love to hear that. The looser the conversation, the better. And yeah, as Toby mentioned, not last week, we were off last week, but we had some injuries, a couple guys out. Toby's had a strained vocal cord, I think, from chopping it up the week before. But the week before that, Toby had a brew. I forget who it was. We won't even mention their name, but yeah, it was a suspect brewery. They were kind of treating their employees a little poorly. So I'm glad to see that you rebounded, Toby. I'm glad you got kind of refresh, get back in the swing of things. So.
Yep.
But yeah, as always, you can follow us on our social media accounts, Twitter and Instagram at Brews and Belters. Of course, you can find the podcast here on YouTube. Just search Brews and Belters. A little bit of progress with the website, actually. I was working on it last night. So working on getting some articles up there for everybody as well. Yeah, a lot of progress coming in the upcoming weeks. But this week, we're going to discuss the matches that we watched this past weekend, match day 24. Some of our end of the year predictions as far as where managers will go, relegation, promotion, and then we'll kind of touch on the Champions League matches from today a bit, and then we'll get into our boos and our cheers and our brews and belters, and we'll wrap it up. So. Which you two gentlemen would like to kick it off with the matches that you watched this week, or shall I?
You go for it, Keegs.
All right, cool. Yeah, well, we'll start with the elephant in the room. Liverpool. Yeah, rough result against a really good team, obviously, with Leicester. Jurgen Klopp conceded after the match that our title hopes are over, which I think was a big move for him because, as I've criticized in the past, he can get a little bit pouty and defensive after a loss. And I think he took it on the chin and took it well. And I think our next move is to kind of carry on, reassess, and be as strong as we can be going into Champions League. Kind of jumping ahead here, but might as well touch on it since we're talking Liverpool. Pretty good performance today against Leipzig, 2-0 win in the Champions League. And they bounced back, and the defense looked good. I was a little bit worried, so kind of bouncing back again. We'll stick to Leicester now. Leicester match, obviously, dominated most of the match, and then slip up at the end, and that's kind of been the theme for them defensively, just making mistakes at the end, losing focus, and letting teams get back in the match. And that didn't happen today in the Champions League match. So I think they'll probably put most of their eggs in that basket. Obviously, you still got to stay afloat in Premier League to get that top 4 spot. But
Leicester, they blew it out too. Their 3 big boys, Madison, Vardy, and Barnes, all stepped up that game. And there was a little blunder. I think it was on the second goal with Vardy that was like that kind of tucked the game away. And Liverpool's kind of going down, whereas Leicester is like up, up, up. You know, there's no one hotter than them right now besides City, of course. But yeah, that was an awesome game. If you're not a Liverpool fan,
Yeah.
so.
And that was Allison and Kabak, the new center back, and that was 100% Allison's error there. No harm on the kid. He went for the ball. He was in position to win the ball, and Allison bolts out. And that's where you kind of pay when you have this sweeper keeper who likes to come out like that. You know, sometimes it bites you in the ass, and it was just all downhill after that. Had a couple rough games. But yeah, they cleaned it up today. Kabak played well. He was actually the man of the match. So that's huge to see. But yeah, Leicester's good enough where they're going to capitalize on that stuff, man. They're good.
I was gonna say RB Leipzig. That's a legit team. I mean, I think they're number 2 in the Bundesliga right now. Like they're flying high. I really like a lot of their players, and yeah, I think that was a huge win for them in the Champions League. But it wasn't played. Technically, that was their home game, and it was played, I want to say, in Turkey, in Istanbul, because right now Germany is not allowing tourism or any sort of travel. And so all the games are not being played in the Europa and the Champions League are not being played in Germany right now because they're not allowing visiting teams to come in. So just a kind of a side note of that whole thing.
So yeah, that was a whole big thing. Klopp's mom passed away like this past weekend, and he couldn't go home because of that. So that was like a whole big thing with, you know, the rough loss this weekend, kind of conceding the title. Like that was kind of the theme of it. And then you got, we'll get to that later. Let's move on. Palace Burnley. Burnley won 3-0. Burnley came out ready to chop heads, dude. They always do. Sean Dyche doesn't have a ton to work with, but he's got those boys purring and ready to play every fucking weekend. And it's so much fun because they just got nothing to lose, and he just lets them loose, almost like Leeds to a lesser extent, like a less wild Leeds. But pretty bad defending from Palace, to be fair. Ball in, 2 defenders go for it, get a little tangled up, and it just falls to Gudmundsson, who put it away pretty easily. But yeah, good win for Burnley. Bad loss for Palace. And then I also watched Arsenal Leeds. Arsenal, the young guns for them look phenomenal. Odegaard and Ceballos connection there, that Real Madrid connection is really, really good. Odegaard looked phenomenal. Not a touch out of place. Looked totally comfortable commanding that midfield at 22 years old. Saka continues to impress. Continues to just work his ass off, and that's the thing. One of the commentators made a funny comment that I really liked, and he articulated it a lot better than me as I was watching it happen. He said it's a little bit of naivety, you know, like you've got the 3 or 4 really hardworking young players who kind of make everything happen, and then you saw Aubameyang with a hat trick, like he's just scooping up the scraps.
Yeah.
All these young guys work hard, but it works, you know. I mean, they get a 4-2 win, and it's kind of like it's really cool to see, and it was actually really cool to watch, and I like that he put it that way. Other than that, watched a little bit of Serie A. Pretty big stakes. Juve were holding 3rd place down. Napoli had a chance to get 3 points and overtake 3rd place by 1 point. And they shut them out. They beat them 1-0. Huge match for both clubs. And it was Lorenzo Insigne who actually buried the penalty for Napoli. 100th Napoli goal for the captain. And he has a history of actually botching penalty kicks against Juve. So pretty huge goal for him. Big statement. Little man stepping up on the big stage. So you got to love seeing that. But yeah, big match for Serie A, which, as we've mentioned, has been a blast to watch. But pass it on to you, Tubbs. What'd you watch?
So, if you count back to not this last Sunday, but the Sunday before, I did watch the Liverpool City game. The only reason why I'm bringing this up is mostly because of Gundogan. He's been on a tear right now. Like, he is probably Premier League Player of the Month. He's scoring a ton of goals, and like So fast forward to last Saturday, they played Tottenham, and I mean, Tottenham's easy to make other teams look really good. Like they have a tendency to do that, but City like just made them look uncomfortable and like exposed everything, cut them up, and and it was Gundogan again. I think he had 2 goals in that game, and he had 2 goals in the Liverpool game as well. So there's 4 goals against top 8 talent. So that was impressive. And then later on that day, or actually earlier in the morning, was the Spurs West Brom game, and that was a 2-0 Spurs win with Kane and Taves. I'm thinking hockey. I got my Blackhawks on. Kane and Son each scoring, and Kane was back from injury, which was like supposed to be a couple week long injury. It was like barely even 10 days. But yeah, I mean, if I honestly thought, I think I even texted you guys this. I didn't know Kane was going to be there, and I was thinking that shitstorm of Tottenham was going to keep going downhill. And if I was seriously thinking if they would drop points to West Brom, that was going to be Jose's, like, kind of like what we were saying with Chelsea. Like that was like the turning point. Like, and then he would have been gone Monday or Tuesday, and they would have just stuck someone in there and wait to the off season to pick up a coach. But they got points with Kane, and he makes everything just look better for that team. Like there's just something wrong with them. I don't know how to fix it. Like their defense sucks, don't get me wrong, but they have quality forwards, quality midfield, and they can't put it all together. And I think most of it is because of the system and the players that he has right now. But they allowed him to go out and buy 7 new players, and those players, some are injured, don't get me wrong, but they're just not putting up the way they should be. But yeah, Kane definitely makes problems not look like problems, with his skill set and his way of playing the game at that position. So fast forward in between both of those games was the Everton Spurs game, and that was game of the year in my opinion, not just because it was like Jack's Everton and my Spurs, but a shit ton of goals, and it was back and forth. Like it was one-sided, then it was not. Both teams, like I didn't know Everton was that bad at like marking up on set pieces. I know like on free kicks they have a really high line, but like on corner kicks, I didn't know that. And like there was guys weren't even, it wasn't like a crazy header, it was like wide open. So that happened, but Everton looked really good. And like with them, with the Spurs getting kicked out of the FA Cup, like I was like, oh, okay, like what's the point of keeping Jose around? Like, yeah, they have the Europa, but that's about it. Like, do you really need to keep him as a coach?
But let's hash in. Can we hash into this game a little bit more?
Oh yeah, cool? No, because I want to say Everton, I think, did everything correct, and like I felt like they kind of did the Jose thing at the end. They parked the bus and allowed Tottenham to come at them in the final 15 minutes, and then the whole part of the overtime as well, because it ended up going into overtime, 15 minutes, where Everton took it.
Yeah, and like, so 2 things. One, like, a little bit of parking the bus, but we also have to remember that, right? Like, we have an Italian coach who, even though a win, disgusted by how many goals are allowed and all of that, which is why, like, when we got, right, was it the go-ahead goal when it was him blowing on his coffee, even like after the goal, right? Like, which is now like every meme everywhere. But like incredibly still like unimpressed. 1, he's a cool cat. 2, like he's not impressed with that showing. But the thing that stands out about this game to me, and just like cup runs in general, is that you would never get this type of game, this type of open game, players just going at it constantly, just driving, if it was a league match. If it was a league match,
Absolutely.
They would have been happy with a draw. This is a cup match with 2 teams that are desperate to get trophies, and like you can tell, like this is why cup games are so much fun. So that was just like that to me was a blast to watch. Even more fun because Everton wins, but yeah, you're not going to get a more entertaining game, and this is why. As much as people start ragging on the like domestic cups,
say that they don't mean as much as they used to, but you watch domestic cup games for games like this. Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, that was, I don't
The-
really have much more to say except that I was happy. And
So Everton, they played most of their main players were started for that game. I think Tottenham was the same way. They didn't have Kane start though, which they brought him on. I want to say in like the 50th minute, like right after half, and he did make an impact on them. They were down 1 or 2 goals at that point, and they ended up tying it up. But one other thing was a knock. Dominic Calvert-Lewin ended up walking out injured. I don't know. Did he end up playing over the weekend after that, or is he still
nope,
out?
did not play against Fulham, and he's out tomorrow against City.
Yeah, yeah. So that's rough, man. Like to have that happen, because he looked good. Like he got his, like one of them I think was a legit goal. Then I think can't remember if he had 1 or 2, but there was one goal one of the guys scored that I was like, that was like a good goal on them, but it was like just, most of them are terrible defense, but there was one that was like awful defense. You're like, what are you doing? But it was like a gift. But yeah, so I don't know, but that was an awesome game. I also watched that same day City played Swansea. So that was kind of a cool FA Cup game. Jordan Morris, the reason why I was watching is because they have the 2 USA guys right now, and Jordan Morris actually started. Didn't really do that much because City was pressing so much on them that they just couldn't get anything going. And then when they did, like the midfield wasn't producing as much. And honestly, Jordan Morris, I think, got the start over someone because it was an FA game, and Swansea's right in the thick of things. Like I want to say, besides Brentford, they are the hottest team right now. Like they've won like 4 or 5 straight, and so they're like number 4 or 5 right now in the table. So they actually rested some of their players against City. They kind of bowed out, but they looked good. Yeah. And then Paul Areola, DC United guy on loan, actually came into that game. So that was exciting. Other than that, I pretty much watched everything you did, Keegs. The only other one I did watch that you didn't bring up was I did watch a Bundesliga game, and that was Dortmund and Hoffenheim. And that ended in a 2-2 draw, with the only real big things happening there is it was 2-1 Hoffenheim, and there was a guy injured probably at the 40-yard line, right outside the 18-yard box, and Dortmund had the ball, and they ended up not stopping, even though there was an injury. It wasn't right outside. It was like, 12 to 15 yards outside the 18, but he was down, and they didn't stop play, whereas some of the Hoffenheim guys are like, hey, stop playing. They didn't, and Haaland ended up scoring on that, and to make it 2-2. So that was kind of a weird thing, because it's kind of one of those, if it was my team, I'd be like, no, why do you have to kick it out? It's not like they're gonna like trample on the guy. Like it's not. But then there was kind of that common courtesy, because you do see it quite a bit where guys will play it out, even within their own third, they'll play it out. And so that was kind of entertaining to watch. And then Jadon Sancho has been on a tear right now. Like he's really good for that team, which is funny because since he's become really good, that team's become really bad. Like they've lost a lot of games. I want to say they're like 6th in the Bundesliga at the moment. So that was the only other one I watched. I did watch a Champions League game today. I did watch a little bit of the Liverpool game, but I watched mostly the Barcelona and PSG game. And that's watching it. You could kind of see PSG, like with Poch's style. I could see it kind of like how the Spurs were, but they were doing it so much freaking better because they have so much more talent. Like when Keane is like kind of the afterthought on the team as a forward, that's when like he was playing really well. Mbappe had a hat trick. He was lights out, like ungodly good. And Barcelona actually took the lead, and I want to say in the 20th minute off a PK that Messi took on him. So it was good. In that game, Serginho Dest did start at right back for Barcelona, and he actually looked pretty good against Mbappe, but it was just too much, and he actually got subbed off, and they brought on some more offensive talent. And PSG is a machine right now. Like after watching them, and they didn't even have Neymar playing, and they still look really good. So that's about all I watched. Did you guys watch that game or at least see highlights of it?
I did. I had that kind of playing in the background today while working from home, and yeah, it was like that changing of the guard moment. It felt like, and obviously that'll get way overhyped. So I don't want to like buy too into that, but it was kind of one of those moments where like Mbappe was just far and away the best player on the pitch.
Yeah.
The way he took his goals were really good. A couple that needed some composure and a couple good touches in the box. And then, his third one was just first touch. The ball was laid off cleanly to him. He should
Yeah.
have finished, but you still needed a little bit of that class to take it first touch, to angle it in, to hit it as crisply as he did. And
I mean, he bent it around one of the best goalies in the world in Ter Stegen.
yeah,
Ter Stegen. Yeah. Super German. Super German. Yeah, no, I like
great finish. Looked good. Love to see Moisekin scoring and hitting a low on everybody.
I like seeing that too because instantly in that game his value skyrocketed.
You're just
So
seeing
can't
money
wait.
bags over there. I'm seeing the
Can't,
Italian
that's all
flag.
I was seeing. That's all I saw was money.
I'm seeing Italy in the Euros. Him up top.
honestly, yeah.
It'll be
For all you
up there.
guys that don't know,
We still got Euro.
he's an Everton boy, so makes sense. Jack's a little
He's-
salty.
No, I'm not salty, dude. I'm very
no,
happy for him. Like it,
Yeah,
I don't think he wants to come back to Everton, and then that's totally fine. Like I love seeing him do well for himself, but also for the club. Sell him on and get a good price point for him.
absolutely. Man, that's a win-win move. I'd love to see him join PSG. Everton gets a win. He gets a win. PSG gets a win. Good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Jack, what did you end up watching?
A lot of what you guys said. So yeah, the Everton Spurs in the FA Cup, Everton Fulham, which I don't even want to talk about. Like you thought that you literally thought that we were playing Bayern. I didn't understand. I didn't understand Carlo's tactics on this one. I think he got the tactics wrong. And I would have liked to have seen we like with DCL out. It wasn't even like that we didn't have somebody up top. We just this is our issue is that we can't break down a team that we're meant to break down. Even though Fulham was playing on the front foot, Fulham was obviously like trying to bring it to us, but this was us against Newcastle. This was West Ham. Like we just can't break down these teams, and we struggle when we can't play counter-attacking style. We just don't have the talent for it. So, really frustrating game, really poor performance. Not much else to say about it, to be honest, except that I don't think Carlo got it right. I would have liked to have seen changes at halftime to just for him to admit that he got it wrong and make more subs, but is what it is. And we got City tomorrow, which so not looking forward to that one either.
With Fulham, real quick, I watched like 20 minutes of that game, but someone that's always forgotten from Chelsea that's on loan at Fulham, Loftus-Cheek is like a legit good player. Like he was even playing for England for a little while. And he stars. Like he kind of reminds me of Jack Grealish, just how like I can't tell if everyone on his team just isn't as good, and so it makes him look really good. Because I kind of feel like that's how Fulham is. Like Fulham's like if you have like 0 to 10 star rating and like 10 being great, I think most of Fulham averages like a 6 to 7, and Loftus-Cheek is like probably a 7 to 8 on the rating scale. Like he's a good player, but he always jumps out whenever I watch him on the pitch. And I don't think Anthony Robinson was playing, was he? The U.S. defender. I think he's. I can't tell if he's injured or just not playing. Like, yeah, I don't know. Like, because I know he would have.
He's just got like 15 red cards by now because he just sprints as hard as he can into every challenge, and like he's just programmed to do nothing.
Because I can't remember when he got that last red card. I want to say it was like 2 weeks ago against Leeds. So I don't know if he's still out or what. Like,
But
Yeah.
with go ahead, Jake.
Nothing. I had nothing relevant to say except for just moping.
I was just gonna say with Ruben Loftus-Cheek, yeah, I think the people around him make him look a little bit better, but also taking into consideration their central roles, both him and Grealish in their team. I mean, Grealish is fucking phenomenal, but Loftus-Cheek kind of is that like central mid for them that a lot of their play is going to run through. So I think that has part to do with it too. Just like them funneling a lot of their play through him, because it's not like they've got world class wingers on the outside, channel a lot of their play out.
Or Crystal Palace.
I just want to change the topic,
Exactly.
boys. I just want to change the topic.
Anyway,
I also watched Napoli Juve, which was a good game, and Serie A, just something. Again, I've mentioned this before. Not a league that I've really watched previously, but I am so intrigued by now. Just at the table, right? So we have Inter and Milan at the top, right? Inter on 50 points, Milan at 59 or 49 points. But then these European spots, it's so tight. So you have Roma at 43, Juve at 42, Napoli at 40, Atalanta at 40, Lazio at 40. Like it's so tight on those European spots. Big 3 points for Napoli. And yeah, so just really exciting. And then I did also watch St. Johnston against Celtic. Uh, Pretty unimpressive first half, and like actually a very miserable first half, 0-0. St. Johnston scores pretty early on in the second half, I think like the 49th minute. But then you had Edouard come in to save Celtic, scored in the 60th, and then scored in the 62nd. So having him with 2 goals to put Celtic up 2-1. Still no hope for them taking the league or anything like that. Neil Lennon still has to go. But anyway, fun watch up in the Highlands. So those were my games.
Nice.
Good transition into our next topic, which is kind of
Jack's a pro's pro. He was doing that on purpose. Working those transitions.
I won't say that we're gonna make predictions on the end of the year, because we've grown to realize that predictions are not worth making this season, but just things that we think we should kind of keep our eye on as far as player moves, manager moves, etc., promotion, relegation. But Edouard is a guy that has caught my eye the 2 or 3 times that I've watched Celtic. Jack, is there any rumor of him leaving? And if so, do you?
Well, so I mean, just within Celtic, and I believe Edouard is one of them. The anticipation is that like 9 out of their 11 players are gonna be moving on. Edouard, I believe Edouard has been. There's a lot of links between Celtic and the French league. I could see Edouard going back to France. I have not seen anything too relevant about him, like to head down south. But I could see him going to France. Christopher Ayer is another guy who is probably going to be leaving. He's been playing at a right back spot, but is also can play. He's been playing a lot of central. Actually had links to Everton earlier in the summer. I could see him maybe going to like a Southampton or someone at kind of like that caliber. Maybe a West Ham or something like that. Those would probably be he'd probably be the one I could see like really going down south. Probably sooner than later.
Nice.
Okay. Yeah, I know Edouard is 23. So yeah, he might need a year before the Premier League or something like that. Who knows though? He's got a lot of skill. But Toby, I'm going to kind of pass it off to you. I know you got some thoughts on maybe some. You've mentioned Jose maybe
Yeah,
could have a hot seat. What are your managerial predictions for the end of the
Uh,
season?
I think he's out. I think they're just waiting till the end of the year because I think the 2 or 3 coaches they want are still like fighting for top positions outside. I don't think they'd go in England for another coach. I think they'd probably go to Italy, somewhere random, but most likely I mean the sexy name right now, which I think would be a good fit, would be Julian Nagelsmann, which is the RB Leipzig coach, and he's in the Champions League. They got beat today, but he's told people that he wants to move on from RB Leipzig. And I mean at this point, I mean RB Leipzig's been in the Champions League the last couple of years. Like I don't know if Tottenham's like a step up. It sounds bad saying that, but I don't know. Like I mean financially they definitely are, but I think if you're not Bayern Munich, you're a selling team inside Germany. Like you loan players, you sell players. Whereas in the Premier League, the top 5 or 6 teams, they don't really, they'll sell stuff if they're not working out, but they don't really sell a player because they need money, And so that's why I think he would maybe be more interested. But yeah,
do you think that would be like if you were him, like would you go to Spurs or would you wait for a bigger job?
I'd wait
Because
for
he's arguably I mean, like people are linking him to be the next Klopp, right? Like the next big German coach to come.
He's young too.
Yeah.
I think he's like 35, 36. So
Yeah.
like he's very young and very technical. I like his setup, his system. It is kind of demanding, just like watching a little bit of the Liverpool game and watching some of the other RB Leipzig games throughout the season, where his style is like kind of like sprint to the ball, press hard. Like you have to be. It's very physically demanding. And right now, Tottenham has a lot of guys that are older. They have a lot of young kids that are playing well, like on loan other places, but for the most part, they're an older group that I don't know if they have the stamina to run his style. But to answer your question, Jack, I don't know, man. I mean, there's nowhere in Paris or France I'd want to go, and I don't know about Spain. Like, I think he wants to go to the Premier League, but I don't know what other positions are open.
And I'm with you because I mean I said this about Brendan Rodgers when Brendan went to Leicester. I was like, if I was Brendan Rodgers, why wouldn't I wait for a bigger club to open up? Like I was envisioning like the Chelsea job to be open at some future, but like I mean I guess if you're a good coach, I mean like at where Leicester's at, and it depends on like what your hopes are. So anyway, like that, I bit my tongue before saying stuff like that. So.
Yeah, and I do think that the roster and what you're working with and what you're walking into has part to do with that too. As you mentioned, Toby, like he's kind of the sexy name right now for that job, but is he the right fit for what they've got? And if he isn't the right fit for what they got, will they be able to buy the players that they need and let go of the players that they need to kind of get that setup that he needs? Because you mentioned maybe an Italian manager. I could see an Italian manager doing well in that role because they've got that deep line. They've got that Hoiberg, type of player. Not type of player. Literally, they have Hoiberg. And then they've got Kane, who's up there as a playmaker. They've got Son, who can get forward, get behind lines. It does seem, even though Nagelsmann is kind of the sexy name, and like would be like the big signing, the headline signing, it does seem a little bit more like an Ancelotti would be a fit, or like that classic Italian manager would be a fit.
Kind of how I pictured them. The last like 5 games, they've only won 1 game, or less in all competitions. Last 6 games, only 1 game. Like they're playing trashier than Burnley. Like, why don't you just go get Sean Dyche? Like, why don't you get him? Like, at least he'll play a better system of that way of playing, is what I'm thinking. Because like with Everton and with City, they decide to go for it, and in doing so, they sacrifice their defense, and their defense is like not who I would think to play, is like who's playing. It's like how many times? I mean, you guys watch enough Spurs to know Eric Dyer is not good. Like he had an okay stint. He has good qualities, but overall, like he's not very good. Like you can't. I'm saying all this, and then like Liverpool's been doing with Henderson, but you can't just like plug a hole by sticking a dude at center back because he's a holding midfielder. Like that doesn't make sense. Like their marking's not the same. Like he doesn't track the ball. He tracks the ball differently than a normal center back would, that would track the ball while minding where the person is. So, yeah, I don't know.
Let me just throw a total curveball to all of Toby's points here, and maybe watch him jump off a bridge. Is the Athletic reports today that Jose has a no-break clause in his contract. So, and his contract is till 2023. So
typical.
Typical Spurs. But like also like this is the thing though. It's a no break. I mean, this is what they're reporting. This isn't official. But like if it's a no break clause, like it's 100% on Jose because he has had ownership backing. Did you say like they've made like 7 moves?
Yeah,
they brought in 7 players for Jose. So it's like if he can't get this shit together, like but anyway, so I don't know how no break clauses work, if they are allowed to break, if Jose says that he wants out. So anyway, but could you imagine? I don't know.
So I did see that today, but I was like, it doesn't matter. Like there's no amount of money that you can't pay someone to get the fuck out of your stadium, because like Jose's kind of been on a system. Like his cycle's 3 years, and he's at year 3 this year, which is year 2. Like, I mean, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Like he's, I mean, yeah, he had fans maybe twice. He's never played he's never managed Tottenham in front of a packed stadium. Like that's kind of crazy to think that. And he's been in this manager for like 2 years. Like he's done it like when Tottenham, I think was when London had like 20% capacity, so they had like 8,000 fans or something. But yeah, I mean, it's just a weird time, but his just like it was pulling teeth not watching Liverpool, but like watching them play everyone else. Like they just did not look good. And then they're like, oh, against Everton, they're like, oh, we're gonna go for it. And when they went for it, like their defense is awful. And that's the scheme at that point. That is not just players, it's the way that they're being coached. Like I literally don't think they have any like in practice. I don't think they do any like final third different layouts and whatnot. Like they're not actually like running different practices based on like being in the final third and the offensive, because they look lost and in shambles. Like it's pretty much 1v1 and hope one guy cuts. Like there's no real movement and fluidity to anything. And I think that's the way he wants it. Like he wants them just to be a counterattacking team and bang. But yeah, so getting back to the whole general year-end discussion that we're kind of projecting, even though we don't want to project it, I don't see them getting any trophies. They're not going to beat City in the Carabao Cup in April. Like they're not going to do that. They're not going to be in the top 6. I bet they're 7 or 8 at best. Like I haven't even looked at their schedule. I don't need to. Like they're not. Yeah. Like that's why we didn't have a thing last week, because I couldn't do it. Like I wanted to jump off a bridge, and then I loved it. So yeah, I mean, I have to take it if I give it out like to all you guys all the time. Like I have to be able to take it.
Yeah, it's a give and take. It's a give and take. So the question remains: if Jose is gone this year, what job does he take next? Does he take Berhalter's job as the USMNT coach?
No.
Oh God, no.
I'd shit myself.
USA's their coaching job's pretty sexy right now, though. They have a lot of up and coming talent. So,
yeah, for sure.
With projections, just looking at the table real quick, bottom 3 are all terrible teams One's actually kind of been on a run recently, though. Sheffield United, West Brom, and Fulham. And then rounding out right above them with like 7 or 8 more points is Burnley and Newcastle. I don't think Burnley and Newcastle and Brighton and all those teams, I don't think they have any problem. I think they're going to be there. I think Fulham, West Brom, Sheffield have already like made their bed and they're laying in it. Like I don't see them. Do you guys see anything with them coming up?
No, especially West Brom and Fulham, or West Brom, excuse me, and Sheffield United. They've really been there, the whole season. Like we've kind of known that from the jump. So yeah, I don't see any.
The only thing would be, to me, it's not as much as the bottom three. It's how much could any other team crater. Like I could see Newcastle cratering. I just don't really like that team. I don't know if they have enough, but I could also see Fulham, not just because I watched them play a terrible Everton squad, but like I could see them turning something on, and making a run. But that would be the only really swap that I could see. But it just depends on how far down Newcastle gets.
But
yeah,
I mean, I think of Newcastle as like a storied team. Like I can't see them dropping. Like it just doesn't make sense to me. So hopefully,
I mean, they've only been up for like 3 years now. I mean, they haven't been up for an incredible long time this stint, have they? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Just historically, you mean? Though,
yeah, it's a historic club.
Yeah, kind of like Aston Villa.
Yeah. And I mean that's kind of the interesting thing about the system too is that could happen. Like Fulham could make a run. They've shown flashes where they could win 3-4 games in a row, but we're getting to that point where where there's 2 weeks, like two months left in the season, 2 months-ish left in the season, where it would take that like strange bit of dark magic for them to win like 4 in a row while simultaneously Newcastle drop 4 in a row. Like it's got to be that perfect balance, which is what makes things interesting because that's not impossible. I mean, it's unlikely, sure, but it's not impossible, which is why this shit's fun to watch.
I know. I feel bad for West Brom, and I definitely feel bad for Fulham because like they're kind of always like they're like top championship, lower Premier League, like they kind of flutter in both. And it just sucks that they didn't have any fans this year, after coming up, like they literally have not played with fans at home. So that does suck.
Yeah. No fans, no ticket sales. I mean, that's a big part of it too. They're kind of in that financial limbo. Unfortunately, money plays such a big role, where when you're kind of back and forth between the Premier League and the Championship, you're sort of in that limbo where you're too good for one, you're not good enough for the other, but you don't have that money to give you that jump, so it sucks. But yeah, any other relegation promotion discussion? I don't really watch a whole lot of I haven't watched a whole lot of Championship this season. I know you guys have watched a little bit more.
With promotion, I mean, how the Championship works is the first 2 teams are auto bids, and then they do 3 through, I would think 6 or 7, are in a playoff for the final 3rd spot. And right now, Norwich has been dropping points. Like I want to say over the last 5, there are 2 wins and 2. I'm looking at it right now: 2 wins, 1 loss, and 2 draws. And Brentford was on a 4-game win streak before losing this last weekend. And so they're number 1 and number 2, and they look good. Brentford, I know I saw them play against Tottenham a couple weeks ago, and they're a legit team. Not a lot of scoring depth, but they're legit. Norwich City looks the best, but they pretty much have almost the same roster that they did last year in the Premier League, minus Godfrey going to Everton, and then I think they maybe loaned out one other player that was one of their midfielders. But they look pretty good. Watford's Watford, and Swansea's number 4, and that's who I've been like kind of being a fan of recently. And their last 5 games, they've won 4 and drawn 1, and they're a team that's hot going into it. I'd like to see them take over Brentford and kind of be that number 2 auto bid, and then let everyone else battle it out. Because like last year, there was a few teams that were all playing for it, and Swansea was one of them. And it's just, you're playing 2 or 3 games to get into that third spot. That's really difficult to do. So yeah, I'm hoping that they can get into that second spot. But yeah, it's wide open, and that the championship's crazy because like there's 24 teams. I think 20. Yeah, there's 24 teams, and they play 8 more games in the Premier League, and then some of them are in the FA Cup, and some of them are in the Carabao Cup. Like it just depends. Like they're in different. So they're playing multiple games, sometimes 2 to 3 games a week, which you don't usually get that unless you're a freaking Liverpool or a City. Playing in the league games, playing in the world tournaments like the Champions League, and then also playing in the English league tournaments as well. That you get that many games. But at that point, they have a big enough can switch guys out, come in with their U21s or U18s.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot. Like it's a lot to manage, and so there's a lot more to play, and yeah, it'll kind of shake itself out. But have you been watching any?
Yeah, I've been watching a decent amount, and what I'd say is I'm very interested to see. I think that the top 2 that are going to get automatic promotion are going to be Norwich. I think they're far and above the best team. And I think Brentford too. Brentford's been just scoring goals and been a lot of fun. And then from there, whoever gets in the playoff spots, I think Swansea probably is the person, the team to beat for that.
I
But
think it was also Watford and Bournemouth are like 3 and 5 or something, so they're right there with them.
But what there's 2 things that's like more interesting to me, like is no matter who it is it going to be Norwich again? And well, it is going to be Norwich, but will they play the same style of soccer that they played when they came up, which automatically sent them back down? They didn't want to change the style that they were playing, and they just were playing that against better, bigger teams. Are Brentford, who is also playing a very front-footed game. Like, are these coaches, when they come up, are they going to play a more pragmatic style to try, or are they going to stick with their style, which is like, here's our team, no, we're going to live and die by it, right? And what I would say too, if you haven't been watching this guy already, is Ivan Toney from Brentford. He's come up through the ranks. I think he's like 24 years old.
Yeah.
Brought in from Peterborough in League One. He right now is sitting on 29 games, 23 goals. 29 games, 23 goals, and 9 assists. So he's averaging over a point a game. He's involved in everything that they do. Had links to Arsenal during the January transfer window that just died away. But anyway, Brentford is worth.
Uh-oh. Did we lose
I
him?
think we lost them. Brentford's got some pretty killer jerseys too, and I like their stadium, how they color coordinated everything to kind of make it look like a honeycomb, with the maroon, red, and I think it was like a gold and a yellow. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Brentford Bees, fighting bees, baby.
The bees. No, Ivan Toney though. I'm glad he brought him up because I kind of forgot about that name. Because like I mentioned, I haven't been watching a lot of Championship. But yeah, Brentford, 23 goals and 29 appearances. I had to look him up because it's been a little while. He was with Peterborough before. 40 goals in 76 matches. Like he's been doing this for 2-3 years now. So that's a great person to keep an eye on. And I actually had a few others. I don't really have any managerial moves or promotion relegation tidbits to keep an eye on, but I love my young players that are up and coming. So I have a few of those to maybe keep an eye on who I think will make an appearance next season.
Oh, you do?
I'm back.
He's back.
He's back. We'll see if he wants to finish that thought about Ivan Toney.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much just the thought is just really fun to watch. Brentford's really fun to watch. Great story. But yeah, it'll be interesting though when they get promoted. If it's Brentford, if it's Norwich, are they going to stay playing that progressive style that got Norwich demoted as soon as they got brought up?
To Norwich's defense, they were pretty good at the start of the season when Pukki was scoring all the goals, but once he went cold, that's when the team went cold. So we'll see. And Norwich, probably their best midfielder is Skip, and he is a Tottenham academy player that's on loan from Tottenham to Norwich. So I bet he plays on Tottenham's main team next year. So that will be a big hit to them. And then, Pukki's 1 year older. I think he's 27, 28. So that'll hit him as well. But
he doesn't age though, man.
No,
Like
those Viking men don't. Yeah, you're right. Jack, I also gave a shout out to the color scheme of the Brentford Bees with the gold, yellow, maroon, and red. Like their style and system is just awesome. I just like everything about the Bees. So I'm into it. That's my third beer, so that's what.
Love it. No, I'm glad you brought up Ivan Toney. A name that I randomly became familiar with, actually, Jack, but Toby and I touched on it a bit. 40 goals and 76 appearances for Peterborough before he went over to Brentford. So he's been doing it. He's been doing this for a few years now. But it was a good transition into I don't really have anything about managers or promotion relegation besides what we've talked about, but I do have a few good young players to keep an eye on. Louis Barry, 17-year-old for Aston Villa, has been mostly playing with the U23 squad. Scored a great goal against Liverpool in the FA Cup when Aston Villa had all those players out because of COVID and they had to play the youngins. Super talented forward.
He's the dude that traded his jersey, right? And then asked for it back because it was his first club goal.
Yeah, I think he did. I think he did. Yeah. Looks like he's 14. He is only 17. Really good, nose for goal. Really good player. Another is a young Frenchman who we've discussed the Chelsea Academy as well as the Chelsea Loan Projects. He is a product of the Chelsea Loan, not the Chelsea Loan Projects, but the Chelsea Academy. Michael Olise, 19-year-old midfielder, playing in the Championship for Reading. Just smooth midfielder. I think in this season he's got like 4 goals, 8 assists. Just good, confident player, similar to like an Eberechiesi, where like the game can kind of flow through him. He might not put up crazy numbers stat wise, but he has a good feel for the game. And then one that you probably won't see in the Premier League, but you will see with the team that we discussed earlier with PSG. Xavi Simons has been a player that was like a wonder kid at like 13, 14, one of those big names that you see on YouTube and shit all over the place. But he's like really worth the hype. Finally made his like senior debut recently. New manager with Pochettino. You could see him like really kind of coming into his own and developing that relationship with Poch, who obviously spent a lot of time as a player at PSG. 4-time Youth Ballon d'Or winner, super talented, and has like you can see that his game has matured from like 3-4 years ago when I was watching his little YouTube mixtapes when he was like 13. So just a few players to kind of keep your eye on heading into next season. Yeah.
Nice.
Shall we move on to our booze and cheers, or do we have anything else to watch out for the rest of the 2020-2021 season?
Just to kind of follow up with what you're talking about with the guy from PSG, watching that game today, like Poch looks so happy. Like he's like, you could tell he like really likes being there. Because I think just being in freaking London and England at playing playing like for the Premier League, I think that drains guys pretty quick. You know what I mean? Like, where I think PSG has its own problems as well, but I think it's a little bit more relaxed. Kind of like I think certain teams in Spain are that same way. I don't think Barcelona is, but I do think that he just looked he looked good. Like when I saw him at Tottenham, it looked like he smoked like a pack of cigarettes a day. You know, like he looked like he was just struggling, like stressed out all the time. And so yeah, it was nice seeing him at PSG, and I think he'll be at there for a few years, especially if he can put up numbers. So
I feel like he's like he's an ex that you're really happy for. You know, he's glowing right now. He's really glowing. He's doing his thing. He's in his element, and you're not bitter about it. You have no resentment. You're just happy for him. And I love that. Bro.
Yeah,
I love that.
It's not me. It's not me. It's you, baby. Yeah, no, like I really did. I did love him, but yeah. I mean, it was just like our time was done together. You know, it was.
No, so. I get it. No, yeah, he seems like a good dude. Seems like the kind of guy you want to root for. So yeah, happy to see him doing well. And I've always had a little bit of I don't know, a distaste for PSG for no real reason, and the hiring of him has definitely made me soften up on them a little bit.
Yeah,
I want to see him do well. So my belter of the week, actually, I got pretty lazy with it. I chose Mbappe's third goal today. Didn't really smash it, but I just loved the technique. I loved the approach. As you know, I've already got 2 goals. This game's already in the bag. But to see a young guy just come in and seal the deal like that, like it showed some concentration, it showed some maturity, it showed some focus, it showed that that kind of like step on the neck mentality that PSG's lacked in the past few years, where they've had that talent, they just haven't really sealed the deal. And to see him step up and be the one to do that was pretty cool to see. It was like it was his like I'm living up to the hype kind of moment was today. And I've sort of been waiting for that from him. So
nice.
Yeah. What about you?
Jack, do you have a belter?
I'd probably go with Bernard in the FA game against Spurs. Came on as a sub, goes into extra time and scores it off the volley and just rockets it. A guy who hasn't had a lot of goals this year, or really a lot of playing time this year.
Yeah.
And is another guy who's probably I was just happy for him. I like the little man. And yeah, getting goals in the extra time to get on to the next round. Can't say no to that.
I was gonna say goals in extra round and tattoos. That's what Jack's into. So.
I'm in.
My belter of the week. I have a good booze and cheers. My belter of the week is Alphonso Davies. They were playing. Bayern Munich was playing Bielefeld, I think. I can't remember the team. But they were down 2-3, and they shouldn't have been. And he had a really nice rocket. It was kind of ping-ponged in the box, and he took it outside the 18 and just smoked it. And it was awesome goal. Honorable mention was the first goal of that game. It was Lewandowski. Literally chested it probably at the 9-yard line and chested it with his back to the goal, and without having it touch the ground, he chested it to himself, but chested it perfectly that he got it onto his right foot and did a 180 pirouette, and that thing, he volleyed that like 80 miles per hour. It was a belter too, and it was all within like the 8 yards, and it was very technical. It was typical Lewandowski. Yeah. So
some shit only he could do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Speaking of something that I remember seeing, Lukaku has more goals at an earlier age than Lewandowski does and everyone else, but you don't really talk about Lewandowski in that. It's like he has more goals at an earlier age than Zlatan and Lewandowski and a few others. But there's like 2 of the main ones I remember, and I was like, because I remember a couple weeks ago we were talking about Lukaku and how he had like pure goal scoring talent, and yeah, I kind of always forget about him,
Yeah, he's got that total striker build, and package that a Lewandowski has, and that a kind of a Benzema. Benzema's a little bit different. He's a little bit more athletic and a little bit less like I'm gonna physically dominate you. But Holland's got that. But yeah, I could believe that. That's a little bit surprising to me, but I could believe that about Lukaku because man, like he got off to a good start, and then it was just kind of like he was at Everton. At no disrespect, Jack, but he was at Everton at a time when Everton just weren't clicking, like they weren't firing. And then he had kind of some years where he just sort of drifted and disappeared. But goal scoring machine, man.
There we go. Jack, you got a boo? Or actually, let's do yours last. Yours are usually very profound and intellectual, and mine are usually pretty smash.
Yeah.
So, Keegs, you want to go first?
Potential, man. I'll go first. Yeah, mine's just bitching about. I almost just went straight into it. Obviously, rough run of form for Liverpool. Rough one last weekend against Leicester. And then I mentioned that Klopp couldn't get into Germany for his mother's funeral. And Liverpool fans online were like calling for his resignation after a season where that's just been plagued with injuries in the middle of a fucking pandemic. After all this dude's done for the club, like I don't know, there's a kind of a weird subsector of the internet where there's like these Liverpool fans or just soccer fans in general. You'll see it from every club. And it's like, damn, these are the kids that are like 19 and have been watching for like a year and a half. And it's especially annoying with Liverpool because the last 2 years have been really, really good. So it's like when everyone was a Golden State Warriors fan all of a sudden, it's like if after last season with all their injuries, like some of those bandwagon fans were like, "Yeah, get Kerr out of there." It'd just be like, "What the fuck are you talking about, you weirdo?" So my boo is for all those people who are just like, there's just a lot of shitty, wishy-washy Liverpool fans whose voices are amplified by Twitter and Instagram and all that shit, and just soccer in general. Like that's an all-encompassing thing in the sport where kind of those ignorant voices are louder than like the more calm, tame voices, um, which I guess can be said about social media in general, but especially about soccer. So that's my boo.
Okay, I like it.
I'll go for my boo because it's similar. And I was gonna go with the online death threats that have been coming up, right? So like Mike Dean, right? So he had to take a leave after getting death threats for some. I don't actually remember the specifics on it. If there was like a specific call, but was getting death threats from fans online. And then 2 days ago, James McLean, who is plays for Stoke now, but he's kind of just an outspoken guy, Irish guy who like doesn't wear poppies, very vocal about kind of his dislike for British imperialism, and he received a bunch of death threats. His wife came out and like talked about how they started receiving death threats for their kids and all this stuff. So anyway, just like all the bullshit that people do on Twitter, and it doesn't matter if you're just sauced up one night or if like you're being serious. Like this shit's just so dumb. So anyway, just shitty stuff going on the internet.
Disclaimer.
And to tack onto that, like I feel morally inclined to say too, like an unbelief, and I don't know how this hasn't been brought up before, and hate to harp on the negative stuff, but it's important, and this is why we do the booze. All of the racist comments too on Instagram that week after week, and they, these policies and like these, slogans and stuff are put into place, but still each week like it feels like there's a new story about a new player who has been like subject to racist comments on Instagram or Twitter or whatever. So yeah, I mean, I think just a huge boo towards shitbags on the internet in general, and specifically soccer, Twitter, and Instagram. Just yeah, awful. Anyway,
Um,
go ahead, Toby.
Disclaimer: even though I call him the party pooper, Mike Dean does suck. But yeah, you don't want to hate on him like that. Like you can say he has bad calls, but because I'm when Jack was saying, I'm like, well, shit, am I inciting the riots? Is that what I'm doing here? My boo is uh not really a boo, but it's kind of like that's kind of weird boo. It's from Italy, Lazio. They have a up and coming 18-year-old right winger forward that is Mussolini's grandson. And
Oh,
the only reason I'm bringing this up is because he took his mother's name, which was Mussolini, even though usually in Italy you take your father's name. And so it's like it's like he's proud to be Mussolini's, which I'm like, I don't think that's
Dude, but it makes sense if you're fucking a Lazio, dude. Lazio, that's Mussolini's club, and there's still avid Nazi fascists in Lazio's fan thing. When they went to Celtic, like there were guys like doing fascist salutes throughout Glasgow. And if anyone knows anything about Celtic supporters culture, it is incredibly anti-fascist. So like it led to a stabbing. Like anyway, so it would make sense if this dude's a Lazio guy.
so yeah, he is. He's an 18-year-old and they're up and coming like U18s or U21s. Yeah, I was like, oh, and I'm like wait, that's his mom was the daughter, and like so he's the grandson. And then I was like, well, maybe in Italy you take your mom's name every once in a while, like that's common, I guess. No, it's not. so so I'm like, dude, whatever. It's like if my last name was Hitler or like whoever, I can't remember, Booth, whoever started, well, John Wilkes Booth, like him too. Like I don't know if I'd want that like lineage. Like yeah, be proud of who you are, but not to that extent, I guess.
but no, don't.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
also don't. That's yeah.
So
Man, that's a shocking fact. That's a good tidbit though. Good stuff, Tobes.
So that was my booze, and then my cheers is for Ryan Reynolds and Rob McClaney, the dude from It's Always Sunny. He gets fat, whatever.
Yeah,
But anyways,
yeah.
so they bought Wrexham, which is a Welsh team that is in the 4th or 5th division of Premier League, of like the English Premier League. And yeah, they bought that team. And during the time when all the players and everyone, because I don't think they've been playing because of COVID. During that time, there's like bailouts happening for those different teams, and they pretty much paid all of the staff and all of the roster, like all the teams and coaches, all the players and coaches. They pretty much paid all of their lost earnings during COVID, and that was after they bought the team. So yeah, pretty cool. I'd like to see them keep growing. It's kind of seems cool to know that there's like two just guys who make movies and TV shows that are somewhat into soccer. I didn't know Ryan Reynolds was, but whatever. Yeah, so that's my cheer.
Man,
As awesome as that is, it also makes me very sad whenever I see Americans going and buying lower league clubs across Europe, because it's like, why? Like, I bet you if we had an open system that you didn't have to, be a billionaire to own a MLS team, like I bet you Ryan Reynolds would have bought a local club in America instead of Wales. I don't know. So
Yeah.
anyway, I always get sad when I see that.
Fifth division.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
um,
Need promotion relegation here.
yeah. I
Need-
could pop
need
in
it
with my cheer. Going across the globe for mine. Myanmar. If you've been following kind of global politics, Myanmar. They had I don't know the full story of it, but they had some type of military takeover of their government after a election. And the Niem.
Great time to do that.
What's that?
So that's a great time to do that.
Yeah. So
Take over the government.
but, so right now, like the military is in charge of their government, and it's led to mass protests throughout the country. And anyway, the Myanmar national soccer team and Myanmar soccer players have made a public stance of standing with the protesters to stand with democracy and not military rule. A lot of them are putting their future with the national team at stake if they end up ruling that the military is going to stay in charge. So guys risking their careers to be able to stick up for what they think is right. So props to the guys in the MR.
Love it. Yep, love it. And I'll bring us back with a pretty light cheers here. I love the depth of this episode, by the way. We're really digging in, and that's a good thing. But my cheers is pretty light. I'm just gonna offer up a cheers to Jesse Lingard. Happy to see Lingardino get a bit of rebirth. Didn't know it would go this well for him. I didn't know it would be this good of a fit. But I'm really happy for him, and I hope that it lasts. I hope he keeps scoring goals. Hope West Ham keeps climbing too, man.
5, right? 5?
Yeah, I think 5.
I got it right here. 5.
Yep.
42 points, technically tied with Chelsea.
Yeah.
Yep. Can you imagine them going to the Champions League?
I love it, man. Lingardino and Souček. Be amazing.
Yeah. No, that'd be awesome.
But yeah, I think that's, unless you boys got some more notes, I think that's all we got for this week.
Not me.
Tune in next week. We'll be talking Champions League. We'll be talking Premier League, a little bit of Serie A, obviously. And then we might do, unless something crazy happens this week, we might do a little recap on, kind of what we expect to see at the end of the season for Serie A too. Again, tough to predict, but that season's just boiling up to be a pretty spicy ending. So
yeah, Europa League action on Thursday as well.
Yes. Yep. Good call.
So
yeah, that is episode 7.
Yep.
And episode 8. I'm sorry, that's episode 8.
Pod 8.
And we will see you next week for episode 9.